So what is up, guys? You got your boy Justin here today, and today I wanted to bring something new to the channel. If you didn't know, I've had a PlayStation 5 for quite some time, luckily getting mine from my job, and I've always wanted to do something built around the system. I had no idea what I really wanted to do. I don't know if I wanted to just stream games, play some games, but today that time has finally come. Sit back and I'm going to give you my honest thoughts on my first PlayStation 5 owned title, Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. And as a small reminder, the first round of DLC should be releasing on the 20th of July. So if you haven't picked up the game yet, now's your time to get the chance of getting the game. And of course, let me know what you guys think about the game in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. So the story starts as the following. You're unnamed warrior named Jack Garland on the quest to kill Chaos. The game makes that super clear within the first few minutes of playing the game. You later get partnered up by more people, being Jet and Ash, as the Warriors of Light. When you visit the great city of Cornelia, that's kind of where the game takes off for you, kind of giving you your introduction and why you need to go do the things that you need to do. I have to give respect that the game takes a bit of a more of a darker approach than most Final Fantasy games. Most Final Fantasy games are pretty lighthearted as they eventually build up to the dark, foreboding moments of the series. However, it's not always apparently clear. In the first literal cutscene of Stranger of Paradise, it gets pretty dark pretty fast, which is actually pretty good, but it can also be a thing that goes against the game in its over-expanding story. In Stranger of Paradise's case, I will have to say that it goes a little bit against the story. Well, the biggest issue is I feel like there's such a hyper focus on one enemy that it really drowns out a lot of the other key things that happen within Stranger of Paradise. It's literally just chaos, 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 and more chaos. That's a little bit of an annoying thing that I personally didn't like within the Stranger of Paradise game. I just thought it was just way too focused for Jack's sake to be also focused about chaos. Literally everything he really wanted to do was just so he can find chaos. That was literally the entire goal throughout most parts of the game, and it just doesn't feel like a genuine overcoming of an antagonist, like when most standard Final Fantasy protagonists overcome the antagonist. There's a good build up, I feel, for most of them. There's a reason why you want to overbuild them. Jack just wants to kill Chaos just to kill Chaos. There's no real deep lore that deep dives into the fact of how Jack wanted to kill Chaos. It's just like, well, I'm just here and I want to kill Chaos. That's quite literally Jack in a nutshell, as his other friends are just there to kind of just support his shenanigans, and awfully he just treats them more so as just tools, more so than friends. There are opening moments where he does kind of bond with the people, and yeah, but that's just my general 2 cents about that. A lot of the game's story also seems a bit fragmented as well. While I don't find it a terrible story, far from it actually, I find it solid, but a lot of what happens isn't necessarily made clear. The party that you end up going with just kind of seems to go with it just to go with it. It starts to get more clear and more towards the second arc of the game, where the story takes a bit of an interesting turn for me. One thing I would like to praise though about Stranger of Paradise is the location choices of the game. If you're a die-hard Final Fantasy fan, you will recognize some of these places within some of the past series games. Prime examples being Final Fantasy XIII Sunlit Waterscape as one of the playable dungeons in the game. And these new worlds, well, these new imagined worlds rather, really do shine in this game. It looks absolutely beautiful. So it's a definite treat if you are running it on the PS5 or if you're running it on any other console. It just looks gorgeous to the eye, with a lot of these new locales being reimagined for this game. So there's that. The combat in the game is very responsive as a Souls-based Final Fantasy game. I had no issues with input commands, no difficulties learning the controls, and it was very action-paced and very fast-paced, which is basically a lot of fun. The battles can also get quite challenging for first-time players of a Souls series type game, or a player who's a little bit more of a casual approach. Thankfully, I do have difficulties to accommodate all player types, but there's actually quite a bit of challenge hidden within certain enemies. Certain enemies do get a little bit more annoying to kill. Some enemies, being like the Tomberry, can basically wipe you in one shot. And with the limiting potion system, you do have to kind of space it out on how you're going to want to go about handling battles, which is something I definitely like. And one of the cool things about this game is the break gauge. Basically, if you deal enough damage to the break gauge, you can essentially break down the enemy and then finish it off with an attack that instantly knocks them out, which is really cool. However, you can also get broken if you're not careful, and they can just deal big damage to you. There's also rooms the enemies just waiting basically to take your party out, kind of giving you a little bit of a test of your skill, just doing that. But I will say that I do love the battle system here. It's very fast, very responsive, a lot of fun. I found myself basically keeping up with the pace and enjoying that pace because it was much more welcoming than a standard game. Bosses are frankly the best part of the combat system. A lot of the bosses of Stranger of Paradise follow a two-phase cycle. Within the first phase, you're typically going down and getting that boss to half HP, or if you end up breaking the boss, you usually follow with some cool combo attack that Jack usually performs on an enemy. Usually it's him crystallizing the enemy with his power, and it looks very good to the eye because some of the combos he performs is actually a lot of fun, and it's actually pretty cool to see. But to indicate that you're in the second phase, basically that's when Jack happens. I will say that these fights are not necessarily a 10 out of 10 experience, but more so at 8.5, as they really do look and feel like good interactions between fights that are going on. It really fits towards the mold of the game's fighting style, and it really does provide you with a little bit of a dazzling effect to the eye, where you're like, wow, that was a pretty badass combo, which is something I definitely did appreciate within Stranger of Paradise. One of the key components of the game is the job system. Your party members and of course yourself can be assigned a job based on any dungeon of your own choosing. Your allies have a set list of jobs that can be further expanded on as you head further deep into the game, while Jack can be any class that is currently available to him. The job system was also very customizable depending on your taste as a player. One of the things about the job system is the depth of the system itself. While it's not overly hard to understand, the job system goes in tandem with the gear you end up collecting. All gear jobs have some type of class symbol, and if you get enough percent of that class symbol, you unlock a passive from that class. For example, if you get 30% from Thief gear, then you would get some passive from the Thief class. You can even take passes from other jobs while also using a different job. This type of thing also really expands on the type of combinations in DPSing or any other type of magic build that you can build with Jack Garland alongside your other party members as well. It really does build a fun system that allows you to sit back and think, hey, what if I take a certain affinity for this, and then I take this, and then I make a Godhouse character. So I do definitely say that it is a lot of fun to optimize builds based on the job system. A cool way to make this a little bit more approachable for players is they directly tell you what gear and what gear types will be dropping within the dungeons themselves. They'll tell you what gear drops, the percents that it gives after you get them, and you can build up from there. As you further make your way down all the way even up to the end game, you're definitely going to be shuffling a lot of your gear around to make more cooler approaches to how you're going to play the game. And that is definitely something that I did appreciate within Stranger of Paradise. Now let's talk about the things that I liked about Stranger of Paradise. I loved mostly the battle system of the game. I loved how fast-paced and action-paced it was. I also loved all the boss fights in the game because of the good combos, and you can even go back to optimize some fights just to see how you felt depending on the type of new gear that you build. It was even a lot of fun just to even go back and just look and just see how you could have improved the build, optimizing clears, kind of learning the boss's patterns, and I personally do like it. A lot of the action in the game kept me well engaged and kept me playing for constant hours at a time because I just wanted to keep going in, either getting new gear, fighting bosses, and grinding even just a little bit just so I could stay on top of the game. Another thing that I love is the scenery choices here. If you're a die-hard Final Fantasy fan, as I mentioned before, you will be dazzled by a lot of these stages. The stages are basically a love letter to the series, as a lot of them reference or just directly call themselves a old stage from the Final Fantasy games. If you know what games, if you've been around the series for some years, then you definitely know what stages are what, and you're gonna be like, wow, this is a really nice place. Wow, I remember this place from, and that's personally why I did love the scenery choices here. Another thing I loved was the expansive job system. I love customizing my build and making a whole bunch of different variant builds. I love testing and just making sure that this could be something that can run within Jack or even just your party members. I did love the customization, especially towards end game and even post game, where the opportunities grow a little bit more because you can build a little bit better. I did love spending quite a bit of time building within the system and just checking out what goes with what and how can I optimize it for better, clear content within the game's content. Now let's talk about what I didn't like about Stranger of Paradise. The story takes a really long time to kind of make sense. A lot of what happens within the game just kind of seems like it's happening just because, and there's no real clear indication as to why it's happening. It's just more so a, oh yeah, we're gonna go kill something. Okay, sure. Which, it can really take you out of the story depending on how deep you want to be invested within a story. Some people kind of like that immediate purpose to mission, and well, it just does not present itself very well here. It doesn't present it very well until the later half of the game, where you kind of start understanding why everything's happening the way that it's happening. But for the first beginning arc, you're kind of just like, okay, alright, you want me to kill something? I'll kill it. That's basically the game in a nutshell for the first beginning parts of the game. The partner AI is god awful in this game. While there have been improvements made in certain other games, like Final Fantasy VII Remake, for example, where you can directly choose your allies and pick them and change them, in this game, outside of giving them gear, there's nothing else you can really do for them. You can of course sign your AI to try to do something. You can make them attack a little bit more aggressively, but a lot of the times they can be absolute doorknobs. I've even seen instances where the AI is just stuck running because they don't realize they're literally running in front of a wall, and that's just, well, kind of disappointing, because the AI is also a really good combo piece for you. They can also set up some staggers for you so you can go into your combos, and it just does not help that they're just so freaking bad with the AI here. But it is something that will get improved over time, I'm sure. And the last thing I didn't like about this game was the constant use of the word chaos. Jack says the word chaos a groundbreaking a lot of times. Even when games having a dominant antagonist, you don't hear them talk about the antagonist throughout every second of the game. With Noctis and Arden, for example, you didn't hear him after he found out that he was not the person that he said he was. You didn't hear Noctis talk about Arden every 10 seconds. With Cloud and Sephiroth, with Sephiroth being the dominant overhead over Cloud literally within the first 10 hours of the game, you didn't hear Cloud talking about Sephiroth every 10 minutes. He more so focused on his own thing. The whole premise of Stranger of Paradise is literally chaos, finding chaos, sniffing chaos, breathing chaos, figuring out his diaper size of chaos, drinking the milk of chaos. It's literally every waking moment with Jack is chaos related. Even the just towards the end game, chaos. Just stop with the chaos, okay? I get it, it's the end game, it's the mission, it's the goal, but still, they could have given him much better word choices. My final thoughts of the game is, I don't feel like Stranger of Paradise was an awful game. While it's currently marked as one of the worst selling Final Fantasy games of all time, but I feel like it was more so that it wasn't really given a chance. I mean, a lot of people kind of memed the game upon its initial release, while some people kind of backtracked their comments. There was still a lot of people that had skepticism over Stranger of Paradise. I do hope this video kind of shined a little bit of a better light, while I also gave my criticisms of the game, but I don't feel like the game really was terrible. I feel like it was an okay game, while it could have been definitely been better, it was something that didn't really go, wow, this is the best game I've ever played in my life. I wouldn't say that. I would definitely say that it was definitely something that I at least enjoyed as my first PlayStation 5 title. Maybe the DLC will put more eyes onto the game. Maybe the DLC will expand on the story and make the story a little bit more of a centerpiece, more so how 15 having the expanded story kind of brought a little bit more of clearances within certain things. But yeah, but I feel like if you are a diehard Final Fantasy fan, then you are definitely going to enjoy this game because, well, of all the scenery, all the direct things that happen within the game that makes you feel like a Final Fantasy fanboy at heart, which is really just something that you can definitely appreciate. As my first PS5 title, I'm definitely going to say I was not disappointed with this game. I felt a bit okay. I felt a bit enjoyed by the game, especially with the fights and everything, but it definitely wasn't something I'm going to say was my definite game of the year. But for that, I'm going to say I felt like Stranger of Paradise was a solid entry in my first line of PlayStation 5 games. That's been all. See you guys next time. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.